I was going to set her head on my desk so it could watch me, keep the corpse in my bed, sleeping with it, having sex with it for days, then start cooking and eating her flesh. These weren't the ravings of a fictional monster. These were the chilling words of Kevin Underwood, describing his methodical plan to torture, murder, and cannibalize his 10-year-old neighbor, Jamie Rose Bolin. What he actually did to this innocent child was so horrific that seasoned detectives required therapy. The crime scene was so disturbing that even the FBI agents who've seen everything couldn't sleep for weeks. But before I continue with this nightmare, I need to ask you something. Some people scroll by true crime content without thinking twice. You didn't. That means you care about justice, about remembering victims like Jamie. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. It helps me understand when people like you are most engaged with these crucial stories that need to be told. On August 7, 1995, in the peaceful city of Edmond, Oklahoma, Curtis Lynn Bolin and Jennifer and Fox welcomed their daughter into the world. They named her Jamie Rose, a name that would echo through America 11 years later, but for the most heartbreaking reason imaginable. Jamie was everything beautiful about childhood. With brilliant copper-red hair that earned her the nickname Copper Top, sparkling blue eyes like fragments of summer sky, and cheeks dusted with freckles, she embodied pure innocence. But Jamie's true beauty radiated from within. In a world where children can be cruel, Jamie stood apart for her extraordinary kindness. She was naturally shy but always eager to befriend anyone. Her uncle later described her as a smart, sweet girl who only saw good in people. This trusting nature, her ability to see light in everyone, would ultimately seal her fate. When Jamie was 2, her parents divorced, reshaping her world entirely. Her mother Jennifer battled addiction and moved to Guthrie, while Jamie remained with her devoted father Curtis in the small town of Dibble. Curtis became both mother and father, working tirelessly to provide for his daughter while filling the emotional void left by Jennifer's absence. Despite the family upheaval, Jamie blossomed. At Purcell Intermediate School, she excelled in 5th grade and formed an unbreakable bond with her best friend Brittany, who said, "She's like a sister to me. We ate breakfast together, played during recess." The girls shared Girl Scout adventures, whispered secrets, and dreamed together. Jamie loved singing and dancing, creating elaborate cheerleading routines for her family. She cherished sewing, bike riding, and dreaming of four-wheeler adventures. Most of all, she treasured time with her father, watching movies and consistently defeating him at checkers. She was just starting to become herself, Curtis would later remember with tears in his eyes. In 2005, Curtis and Jamie moved to Purcell, another quiet Oklahoma town, seeking a fresh start. They rented a modest upstairs apartment in the Purcell Park housing complex on North 8th Avenue. For Jamie, this represented new beginnings, a new home, new school, new friendships waiting to bloom. What nobody knew was that directly across the walkway, on the first floor, a predator had been lurking for over a year. Kevin Ray Underwood was 26 years old. He shared Jamie's red hair, but that's where any similarity ended. While Jamie radiated warmth and light, Kevin harbored unfathomable darkness. He was profoundly withdrawn, spending endless hours in his apartment with his pet rat named Freya, losing himself in the internet's darkest corners. Kevin worked at a local grocery store where his disturbing behavior earned him the nickname Zombie Kevin. The most chilling incident occurred when he pointed to an attractive female customer and asked a coworker, "I wonder what she tastes like." Neighbors noticed Kevin frequently standing outside, watching children play, but none understood the sinister nature of his observations. Online, Kevin transformed into someone even more terrifying. His blog occasionally revealed deeply troubling thoughts. In one post, he wrote, "I really need a girlfriend. My fantasies are getting weirder and more dangerous. If people knew what I was thinking, I'd probably be locked up." For nearly a decade, Kevin had maintained an online relationship with a woman from California. When she refused to meet in person, Kevin was devastated. His online activity then took a horrifying turn. Without intimate companionship, Kevin plunged deeper into the internet's most depraved corners, eventually consuming cannibalistic content. His correspondence revealed escalating darkness, death threats, fascination with cruelty, addiction to disturbing imagery of mutilated corpses. Despite his natural shyness, Kevin made calculated efforts to befriend little Jamie. She was also shy but young and trusting. Sometimes he would emerge from his apartment with Freya perched on his shoulder, a sight that captivated the curious girl. Over time, Jamie became comfortable enough to pet the rat and chat with Kevin in the walkway between buildings. They talked regularly, and she had visited his apartment several times, though her protective father had strictly forbidden her from entering strangers' homes. In late March, Kevin sat in his apartment watching cartoons with his front door ajar. Jamie noticed the open door and entered, asking if she could pet the rat. After brief interaction and cartoon watching, she left safely. On April 11th, Jamie's father asked her to use the complex's pay phone to order pizza since they lacked a phone. Kevin offered his phone, and she followed him inside. Fearing her father's anger, she took the cordless handset outside to the walkway to place the order. Again, nothing harmful occurred. It's heartbreaking to imagine Jamie's innocent thoughts. Dad is just being overprotective with his rules. April 12, 2006. Jamie woke up, pulled on a pink shirt, and headed to school. She was eagerly anticipating seeing her mother Jennifer in a few days. They had planned an Easter egg hunt for the upcoming weekend. Her best friend Brittany later recalled their sixth period conversation, remembering that Jamie seemed pretty happy. These were the final normal moments of the little girl's life. Since Curtis worked past school hours, Jamie typically spent afternoons alone. After school, she stopped at the local library, playing briefly with a friend before heading home. Discovering she'd forgotten her keys at school, she biked back to retrieve them, then returned home. The day was sweltering, and after all that cycling, she was overheated and sweaty. She went upstairs, changed into a blue t-shirt, and headed back down. In that walkway, a predator was waiting. Kevin had spent months meticulously planning his horrific crime. He had acquired a hacksaw, meat tenderizer, barbecue skewers, and a large plastic container. He had developed a detailed plan for cannibalistic torture. Now he had his opportunity. All he needed to do was smile at the shy, red-haired girl and say, "Hi, Jamie. Want to come in and see Freya?" In that moment, an agony began that would last several excruciating hours and forever shatter the lives of everyone who loved the little girl with copper hair. Jamie walked into Kevin's apartment without hesitation. She trusted him completely. He was her neighbor, seemed kind, and nothing bad had happened before. She settled on the floor beside the rat cage while Kevin turned on SpongeBob SquarePants. They watched television and chatted about the show. But inside Kevin's mind, a terrible battle was raging. For 15 agonizing minutes, he wrestled with whether to execute his monstrous plan. He decided it would be better to knock her unconscious first before restraining her. So he grabbed a heavy wooden cutting board. The next 5 minutes became the most torturous of Jamie's short life. Kevin raised the board and lowered it repeatedly, fighting the last vestiges of humanity within himself. Finally, he made his decision and struck Jamie in the head with devastating force. But the blow didn't work as Kevin had fantasized. Jamie didn't lose consciousness instantly. Instead, she leaped up, and her first words were heartbreaking, "I'm sorry." Kevin would later tell detectives that Jamie's words haunted him forever. A terrified little girl saying, "I'm sorry," when she had done absolutely nothing wrong. Jamie tried to run, but Kevin struck her again. She screamed, "Oh God, forgive me," and pleaded, "Let me go. I won't tell anyone." The little girl fought for her life with desperate strength that only a parent can truly understand. Kevin battered her with the cutting board 3 or 4 times while Jamie struggled and refused to fall. Finally, he threw the board aside and grabbed her from behind, clamping his hand over her mouth and nose. He pressed her to the floor, and she ended up on her stomach beneath his weight. If you're still watching and haven't subscribed, I'm honestly curious, what's holding you back? Drop it in the comments. I actually want to know. Stories like Jamie's deserve to reach every parent, every teacher, every person who cares about protecting children. Kevin thought he had killed her when he loosened his grip, but Jamie tried to reach for something from a nearby toolbox. He had to press her down again. She went limp, and he held her like that for several more minutes. He turned her over to ensure she was truly dead. But after 30 seconds, she started breathing again. Kevin was forced to repeat the entire suffocation process. After holding her down for another 5 minutes, she went limp again and lost bladder control. To ensure she was dead, he sealed her mouth and nose with duct tape. Only then did 10-year-old Jamie Rose Bolin finally leave this world that she had only seen in beautiful colors. But Jamie's nightmare was far from over. Kevin dragged her lifeless body to his bedroom, then retrieved her bicycle, rolling it into his walk-in closet. Returning to the body, Kevin realized Jamie was positioned inconveniently for his twisted plans. In his original fantasy, he wanted to drain his victim's blood while she was still alive, like slaughtering livestock. He dragged dead Jamie into the bathroom. In his sick fantasies, Kevin easily moved his victims. But reality proved different. The dead weight was too heavy. After a prolonged struggle, he managed to drape her over the bathtub's edge, pulled her hair back with a tie, and began cutting her neck with a decorative dagger. Kevin couldn't completely sever the spine, but he inflicted deep, saw-like wounds attempting decapitation. He tried collecting blood in a large white bowl, but it had already coagulated and looked unappetizing. Most blood drained into the bathtub. After this, Kevin undressed Jamie's body and performed sexual acts with the corpse, including oral contact and penetration. Leaving Jamie in the bathroom, Kevin went to his computer at 4:08 p.m. to message his California girlfriend. He didn't confess his crime, but she noticed he seemed significantly happier than he'd been in months. During their conversation, he also deleted adult images and crime scene photos from his computer. Shortly before 5 p.m., he watched Jamie's father Curtis arrive home from work. Kevin observed as Curtis searched frantically for Jamie around the apartment. Finding no trace of her, Curtis got in his truck and drove off to search elsewhere. Inside his apartment, Kevin wanted to move Jamie from the bathroom to his bed, but she was bleeding too heavily, and stomach contents were leaking from her neck wounds. Worried the stench would spread beyond his apartment, he lit incense to mask the odor. When apartment manager Tim and Curtis knocked on Kevin's door around 6 p.m., Kevin ensured the bathroom door was tightly closed, dressed, and went outside to speak with them. He later confessed to FBI agents that he intentionally talked to Curtis so no one would suspect his involvement in Jamie's disappearance. He stayed outside pretending to search for Jamie until 8 p.m., when he excused himself, claiming exhaustion and an early work schedule. Back inside, he attempted again to move Jamie, but there was still excessive blood. Kevin was disappointed that reality didn't match his fantasy. He later admitted feeling disgusted and regretful about his actions. He placed her on a tarp, wrapped her in it, and covered the bundle with large black garbage bags. Then he sealed her in a large gray container along with her clothes and a towel to absorb blood. He sealed the container with duct tape and shoved it into his closet. He also disassembled her bicycle, hiding parts under his bed and in a sports bag. The next day, Curtis's family gathered in the walkway, waiting desperately for news. Kevin approached multiple times, talking to Jamie's father and expressing concern to the family, knowing all the while that the girl's dismembered body lay just feet away in his closet. After a day of fruitless searching, officers issued an Amber Alert Thursday evening, and the FBI joined the investigation. By Friday, with no leads, the FBI established 4 roadblocks on roads leading to the apartment complex. Kevin's father was driving Kevin home from work when Agent Craig Overby stopped their truck at a roadblock. Kevin's father mentioned knowing about the missing girl and that Kevin was her neighbor. Overby asked Kevin to speak privately in the patrol car. The FBI agent quickly became convinced Kevin knew more than other suspects. During conversation, Kevin pointed out that the Amber Alert was incorrect. It described Jamie wearing a pink shirt, but he'd seen her riding her bike that afternoon in a blue shirt. This meant he was among the last people to see her before she disappeared. Agent Overby told Kevin he wasn't under arrest but was a crucial witness, requesting he come to the station for a fuller statement. Kevin agreed. During the hour-long interview, Kevin insisted he couldn't have been involved in Jamie's disappearance. After the conversation, Agent Overby drove Kevin back to his apartment and asked if he and other agents could search the premises. Hoping to appear innocent, Kevin consented. Inside, they noticed what appeared to be blood in the bathtub and continued searching. They discovered a large gray plastic container in Kevin's bedroom closet that looked suspicious because it was sealed with duct tape. When the agent asked what was inside, Kevin claimed it contained comic books, sealed with tape to prevent moisture damage. The agent lifted a corner of the tape and opened the container enough to see a blue shirt similar to what Jamie was wearing when she disappeared. When the agent said he saw clothing inside, Kevin blurted out, "Go ahead, arrest me." The agent asked, "Where is she?" Kevin replied, "She's in there. I chopped her up." Inside the container, beneath her blue shirt, they found Jamie's body. After his arrest, Kevin requested to speak with Agent Overby again. What he told FBI agents over several hours became one of the most chilling confessions in American criminal history. Kevin described in horrifying detail his months of planning, purchasing torture implements, cannibalistic fantasies, and how he selected victims among neighborhood children. He explained his plan to decapitate Jamie and place her head on his desk so she could watch him sleep with the corpse for days before cooking and eating her flesh. This confession shocked even experienced investigators and became crucial evidence at trial. Kevin was formally charged with first-degree murder. The jury trial began February 19, 2008. The prosecution presented an autopsy report confirming Jamie died from asphyxiation and blunt force trauma to the head, detailing every injury she sustained. Doctors also found evidence of sexual assault. While this evidence would have secured conviction, prosecutors possessed something more compelling: nearly 2 hours of videotaped interviews where Kevin described everything he planned and executed. The defense didn't attempt to prove innocence. Their sole argument was that he deserved life in prison due to mental illness. On February 28, 2008, it took the jury only 23 minutes to find Kevin guilty of first-degree murder. On March 7, the same jury sentenced him to death. Too many children suffer in silence. If this story made you uncomfortable, good. That means you still care. Subscribe to help others feel what you just felt. Each story I share contains crucial lessons for protecting innocent lives. After 18 years on death row, multiple appeals, and denial of clemency, on December 19, 2024, his 45th birthday, Kevin Ray Underwood was executed by lethal injection at Oklahoma State Penitentiary. In his final words, he apologized to Jamie's family but complained that execution on his birthday was cruel to his family. "I recognize that although I do not want to die, I recognize that I deserve to for what I did. I would like to apologize to the victim's family, my own family, and everyone who had to hear the horrible details of what I did." Jamie's sister, present at the execution, said, "This doesn't bring our Jamie back, but it allows the healing process to begin." Jamie Rose was buried beside her mother, who died in 2023, never recovering from losing her daughter. This tragedy serves as a stark reminder of the critical importance of protecting children and trusting parental instincts. Jamie's father had forbidden her from entering strangers' apartments, a rule that could have saved her life if followed consistently. You watched this entire video, felt the pain, and maybe even cried. But if you don't subscribe, this story risks dying in the shadows. Let's keep Jamie's memory alive. Subscribe now. Jamie Rose Bolin will be remembered as a bright angel whose story must continue saving other children. This case reveals how predators hide among us, targeting our most vulnerable with calculated precision. The warning signs were there: Kevin's disturbing workplace comments, his obsessive watching of children, his strange online behavior. These red flags, when recognized, can prevent tragedies. Check out the other cases on my channel. Each one reveals different predator tactics and warning signs that could save a child's life. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss these crucial stories that every parent, teacher, and community member needs to hear. This took me hours of painful research, reading autopsies, police files, and the cries of mothers that were ignored. If you felt safe watching from your screen, the least you can do is hit that red subscribe button. Remember Jamie Rose Bolin. Remember her copper hair, her trusting smile, her boundless kindness. Remember that monsters walk among us, and only through awareness, vigilance, and sharing these stories can we protect other innocent children from suffering the same fate. Share this video, discuss it with your family, and never forget, a child's life depends on your awareness. Jamie's story must not be forgotten. Her death must not be in vain. Subscribe now, because the next story I tell might be the one that saves a life.